I'm going to start letting everybody in. Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. From London, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Welcome, everyone. We're going to give another minute or so for people to come in, and then we'll get started. Okay, good morning and welcome to the Courageous Conversations community of practice, where we will continue to learn together to lead challenging conversations and healthy discourse around issues of diversity and inclusion toward a culture of belonging in our communities. We are so pleased to be on this journey with you and pleased to have our co-facilitators, Traci and Ellen, leading us, and grateful to Traci Ellis, who will guide us for the first couple of sessions. So for this first session, I want to give you just a little brief introduction to our facilitators, as you'll get to know them well throughout this process. So first, we have Traci Flowers. Traci has her MBA in Human Resources and is a compliance specialist at UPS. Traci has an extensive background in reentry case management. And if that doesn't keep her busy enough, she is executive director of Get Connected, a nonprofit she founded in 2019 to fight the loneliness of the reentry experience. Another co-facilitator is Ellen Almer. Ellen is president and co-executive director of the Illinois Balanced and Restorative Justice Project. She is a board member of the Unitarian Universalist Advocacy Network of Illinois and a volunteer for Choose Civility 815. And Ellen has been working with NICNE throughout the last several months on a belonging initiative with John Powell of the Othering and Belonging Institute at UC Berkeley. And last but by no means least, and someone who probably doesn't need an introduction because we've been traveling with her and journeying with her for the last few months, is Traci O'Neill Ellis. Traci is a Chicago-based attorney, HR executive, and frequent speaker on race, law, politics, equity, and racially inclusive leadership. Traci was named the 2012 YWCA Leader Award winner of the Beatrice Dorsey Award for Business and Professions, as well as the 2018 City of Elgin Human Relations Commission Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian Award winner. Please help me to welcome these extraordinary women and thank them for their commitment to helping us grow our skills to facilitate challenging conversations. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Welcome to everybody, and I'm excited for this conversation. And so I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to level set us. If you've been with us the last few times, you know that every time we're going to enter into these agreements, into these conversations, I have agreements that I'd like to go over. So I'm going to do these quickly because they're multiple repeats for some, new for some, but it's been pretty repetitive. But I just want to give us a reminder this morning. Billy, am I able to share my screen? Looks like it. Yes. Thank you. All right. Okay. So we're just going to go through these agreements again. So the first four, you remember, are from Glenn Singleton's framework called Courageous Conversations About Race, but they're really good for any courageous conversations. So stay engaged. Stay engaged. Don't check out on us. Please, keep listening, keep thinking, keep feeling as you listen to the conversation and as you participate in the conversation. Speak your truth. This is not a time where we expect you to just accept what anybody has said. We want you to feel free to accept your truth, and we're going to be emotionally intelligent enough, mature enough to accept what you're saying and dialogue about it. Doesn't mean we all have to agree, but we can dialogue about it. Be willing to experience discomfort. Okay, these conversations are hard. I don't know what's going to be said today. You don't know what's going to be said today, but these can be difficult conversations to navigate through. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, be okay with that. Sit with that discomfort. Expect and accept non-closure. We are not going to solve problems today. We're on a journey, and it is not a destination. And so we are just trying to move ourselves forward on this journey. Balance showing up as experts and as learners. So this is not I'm not lecturing today. I'm not giving a presentation today. This is a conversation. So but people will be having varying opinions, and we want to be free to express those, and also give grace for where people are on the journey. Some of us are further along than others. Some of us may be experts in some pieces of these topics, and others are still learning. So let's honor that. Safe space versus brave space. You know that I've said, I used to say that I create a safe space, but then afterwards people would say, I didn't feel safe when this was said. And I realized that all of us have different points at which we begin to feel unsafe. So I can't guarantee safe space, but I am trying to we're trying to create a brave space where if you aren't feeling safe, or if something is happening that is not sitting well with you, then we go back to speak your truth. Okay. And I hope that this is a space where it is brave. You can be brave enough to say, hold up, I think differently, I feel differently. That comment didn't sit well with me, and we'll dialogue about it. The devil doesn't need any more advocates. I think that speaks for itself. We're going to assume positive intent and keep the conversation positive. Again, that doesn't mean that we agree. That means that we honor and respect each other's opinions and allow for growth and evolution and understanding. All right. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn it over to Ellen and Tritara.
Thanks so much, Tracy. And to help celebrate today, everyone, this is Tracy's birthday. So happy birthday to Tracy.
Thank you.
Your dad.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the birthday love. You know what? Were you guys gonna start the video? I'm sorry,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are gonna start with a video, and I don't know.
Yes, we're going to watch a TED Talk that Tracy did on color blindness, and then we will have 2 facilitated conversations with with 2 small groups after that, and then we'll have a wrap up. So that's our schedule. And Billy, if you want to go ahead with with the video.
You also give me just a moment. I didn't have that link ready, but I can
Oh,
get that.
sure, yep. So think about too, while we're watching this, if you're willing to be one of the participants in the conversations afterward, because that's what we'll do immediately after is ask for volunteers. And you can use the raise your hand function to do that, and we'll watch that in the list.
It's coming right up.
Okay, you got it? I was just getting ready to. Oh. All right. I'll bring it up. All righty. Why isn't it starting? Just 1 second. That's not good.
Hey, you need to hear this. Did you know that your old cotton pillowcase could be filled with more than a pound of dead skin and bacteria?
All right. Oh, I guess you all heard that, didn't you? Love those commercials. Did you know that? I didn't.
It's very good to know, right? Not exactly what we're going to talk about, but it's good to know.
I'm just a fountain of information this morning. Just a second. Oh my gosh. At first it wouldn't start and then there it went. All right.
Does it happen in other kinds of socks too, or just gold?
I don't know. We'll see.
That's right.
All right.
Each night after you shower.
Skip that ad.
Tracy, I think you muted yourself and it muted the video.
My apologies. Can you all hear me? Okay, my apologies. Let's start. Let me back it up.
Black Lives Matter. And my favorite place to hang out in support of Black Lives Matter. And almost immediately, I got a private message from a Facebook friend, a white person, who took me to task for that post. She said, "That is divisive. All lives matter. And we need to stop seeing each other by color and see each other by human beings." She continued, "When I look at you, Tracy, I don't see color. I see an intelligent woman, an attorney, a good person." Now, this Facebook friend paid me a nice compliment, but I have heard over and over and over, "When I look at you, I don't see color." And I confess that sounds like a really good thing, doesn't it? It sounds like just what this country needs right now, indeed the world, to focus on our shared humanity rather than something divisive like color, doesn't it? It seems like it would help us at this moment, that it's helpful or at least benign. But is it? Or does the failure to see color form the basis of a very considerable problem in this country? So let's talk about racism for just a minute. There is ample evidence and research that racism exists in every institution in this country. It exists in our criminal justice system, where people of color, particularly Black men, are profiled and pulled over more often by the police, charged with more serious crimes, convicted more frequently, and sentenced more harshly than our white people. In fact, although Blacks and whites use drugs at roughly the same rates, Black people are 6 times more likely to be arrested and convicted for drug offenses. Racism exists in our healthcare system. I read research recently that documented that Black people are sometimes mistreated for pain under the misguided notion that we have higher pain tolerances than white people. Therefore, we don't get the appropriate pain medication to manage our pain. Racism exists in our educational systems, where Black children are 3 to 4 times more likely to be suspended or expelled from school than our white students for similar or same behavior, thus greasing the skids for the school to prison pipeline that is so prevalent in this country. Racism exists in our workplaces, where Black folks are 36% less likely to receive a callback for a job than our white people, a stat that has not changed since 1990. And racism exists even for someone, as my Facebook friend described, an intelligent woman, an attorney, a good person. I'm reminded of a story, my story, one morning when I had to be in court. It was gonna be a busy morning, 2 cases up, 2 different courthouses in 2 different counties. As I entered the first courtroom and stood in line to check in with the clerk, I waited my turn behind 2 white attorneys, a white male and a white female. And when it was my turn, I stepped up and started to introduce myself and try to check my client in and check my case in, when the clerk rudely interrupted me and ordered me out of that hallowed area in the courtroom where judges and bailiffs and clerks and attorneys hang out. And she ordered me to go sit with the rest of the defendants in the public seating area. Now, I finished up my business at that courthouse, and I raced over to the other county, to the other courthouse. And before entering the courtroom, I stopped at the clerk's office and to file something, and I got in a line that overhead had a sign hanging that said, "For attorneys only." And I waited in line behind 2 white men. And when it was my turn, I stepped up to the clerk's window, and she refused to wait on me because, as she said, this line is for attorneys only. Now, when I had a moment to catch my breath and was reflecting on what in the world just happened, I thought, 2 different counties, 2 different courtrooms in 2 different counties, 2 different courthouses. And the only difference between me and the other attorneys is that they were white and I was Black. I was dressed professionally. I had a case file in my hand, and I had a legal-size yellow pad. Come on, what else screams attorney besides that legal-size yellow pad, right? You should also know the day. It was August 28th, 2013, the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech. What a bitter irony. Ultimately, Black folks know that no matter how well educated we are, no matter how articulate we are, no matter how well cultured we are, we have fundamentally different experiences in this country than white people, even if white people don't notice. That then is the problem of what I call the exceptional Negro. That is the Black person who for white people is unlike other Black people they use as a reference point. Exceptional Negroes are well educated. They are articulate. They're well cultured, and they seemingly move effortlessly through white business, social, political circles. And most of all, exceptional Negroes know how to behave in public. Not too loud, not too aggressive. We make white people safe. And we don't fit in easily to the stereotypes about Black people. Criminal, thug, welfare queen, baby mama, baby daddy, and myriad other negative stereotypes usually associated with Black folks. We are safe, and therefore we are deemed exceptional. And it is that exceptionalism that allows white people, makes it easy for white people to fail to see our color. So when my Facebook friend told me, essentially, my color was irrelevant, it created a problem for me. She did not create racism, but the failure to see color obscures racism and therefore perpetuates it. The late civil rights activist Julian Bond once said, "If you are blind to color, then you are blind to the consequences of color." So if you can't see color, then you don't see how systems operate in this country to the detriment of people of color because of our color. If you fail to see me as a Black woman in America, then you fail really to see me. You miss all of who I am. Being Black informs my perspectives. It is the lens through which I see the world. It is how I navigate every day, and it forms the basis for many of my experiences in this country. Color blindness obscures racism, systemic racism, and therefore perpetuates it. So what do we do about this problem? How do we undo the notion that color blindness is a noble pursuit? How do we undo the damage done by color blindness, obscuring of systemic racism, and perpetuation of systems of oppression? So HBO came to my community recently to film a documentary on the community policing program and the relationship between the police and the community. And in preparation for coming to town for that documentary, they contacted people, and they contacted a white woman and asked her if she would be interviewed about the relationship between the community and the police and about our community policing program. Now, this white woman could have told a very lovely story of her 0 interactions with the police. But instead, because she is color conscious rather than color blind, she referred the producers to me. And they called, invited me to an interview, and I was able to speak to some of the Black community's experiences with the police, and in turn refer the producers to other Black folks who could paint the story of Black people's relationships and interactions with the police. This white woman's color consciousness led her to allow our stories to be told. Rather than speak for us, over us, or ignore us, she chose to amplify our voices and our stories. She knew that if she were to tell her story and the stories of her white friends and her white circle, that the truth could be obscured. The hard truth that in most communities in this country, there is some level of tension between the police and the Black community. And to obscure that truth would perpetuate that truth. At the heart of that story is a white woman who continuously seeks to be actively curious about the experiences of Black folks and people of color so that she can be an ally rather than a hindrance. And that, I think, is the key for us collectively to begin to dismantle systemic racism. We cannot attack this vicious animal called systemic racism by assuming that we are all the same, but rather by being actively curious about our differences. What does this curiosity look like? Well, it could mean that white people would actively listen to the stories of marginalized people and believe us when we tell you about the microaggressions and racism that we face. It could mean that you research systemic oppression, systemic racism, institutionalized racism, and educate yourselves about that. It could mean that you become actively curious about how the experiences of people of color in this country impact our lives. This is the path to thriving in the colorful communities in which we live. Rather than assume we are all the same, be actively curious about our differences. And so, I ask you, will you continue to see me as an exceptional Negro, or will you see me as Black? And are you curious to discover the difference? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for tuning in with us with that. And now I'll turn it over to Ellen and Chatara to lead us in a conversation on colorblindness.
All right, thank you, Tracy, for that. That was so enlightening and very, very powerful. So with that being said, thank you everyone for being here this morning. My name is Traci Flowers, as you know. Many of you know me, some of you don't. So I just want to welcome you to the conversation. I just want to call on a few volunteers to help answer the question of how did this video make you feel, and in reference to the concept and word colorblind, what lens had you been looking through in reference to that concept, colorblindness? Did you think along the lines of the exceptional Negro when you referred to those individuals who you come in contact with every day, your friends, different people that you have dialogue with? Did you think of them, those in that lens of the exceptional Negro or a strong Black woman, with you identifying that race does play a difference in how we are treated? I'm not sure if I see any hands up, so does anyone want to expound on how that video made them feel? Well, go ahead. Okay, Ms. Gomez, how you doing?
I'm fine. I am so disappointed. It just hurts. It keeps on bringing all this hurt that it should have never existed. I am Hispanic, so I am the result of Europeans raping the indigenous in Mexico. So it is just so heartbreaking that it keeps on happening, like the dating, like the day that the 50th day anniversary of Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream. It's like, it just hurts that it keeps on happening and it is so real and it causes so much suffering and trauma. I am tired of this pain, and I want to make sure that I educate myself to acknowledge that and speak against it. It has to stop. I want this world, like this society, we need everybody. And it is so important that we understand that it is us as a community that have to change this. And I keep on getting angry, and I am so happy that she has done so much in her life that she could work through it and talk about it, but it just hurts so much that that was her reality, and that's what a lot of people are going through. So I'm just in a lot of pain because of that.
Thank you for sharing your emotion, though, and being so transparent with how it makes you feel all of these years later and how it impacts your life. And I'm assuming that that's the reason that you're here today. Like you're saying, you know, you want to be able to be involved in making that change, because it has been so long since many people have sacrificed, you know, their lives and their voice, actually, and to be heard. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Anybody else would like to share?
Hi, this is Barb. I was impacted by the comment of color conscious rather than color blind. I know in my life I've made that statement, I don't see color. And so to have it reframed with being color conscious, I appreciate that. I am the adoptive mother of 2 young biracial girls, and I've had to learn a lot and I've had to teach them things I didn't have to teach my older children. And I've learned things that they've had to learn because of their color. My daughter Destiny is 17 now, but when she was getting her driver's license, she was told by her instructor, if you are Black or of color, when you get pulled over, you are to put your hands up on the dashboard and it is yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, everything, and ask for permission to do anything. And the fact that my 16-year-old child had to be taught that just devastated me and got me thinking about the different things that she's had to undergo being biracial. With her white friend, she's Black, and with her Black friend, she's white. And so she sort of doesn't fit in color-wise in any group per se. So, but it is interesting raising 2 biracial children today, and as a color conscious mother. So thank you, Traci, for that.
And thank you for sharing. It's definitely a scary thing when our children have to suffer the consequence of their race. Is very much alive and breathing, you know, that thing, to have to suffer those consequences. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your input. Anyone else want to share?
Can you hear me?
I
can go.
Hey, Cameron, how you doing?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Cameron, and I just want to say, Ms. Traci, I appreciate your presentation, and it resonated so much with me as a Black woman, because that statement, exceptional Negro, it's kind of like triggering almost, because it speaks to the duality that oftentimes we have to walk around the world with, especially when you're trying to be, you know, a professional. And I think that that is very telling to a lot of individuals that are not Black or people of color. Like, just to be mindful sometimes of the compliments that you give. I personally have been told on many occasions how well-spoken I am. And it's, you know, like one of those situations where it's like, okay, thank you. I guess, like, how else am I supposed to show up? How else am I supposed to be? So I just wanted to speak to that about the duality that a lot of times that like we feel as Black women, just as Black people, that you have to go twice as hard. You always have to be on. You always have to, you know, like make sure that you are putting your best foot forward. And yeah, just the exceptional Negro, like I said, that comment really struck with me. And I think that a lot of us can take away from how that was broken down. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Cameron. Appreciate that.
Can you guys hear me?
Thank you, Cameron. Is there anyone else who would like to share? The Josie?
Yeah, Josie. Hi. The video was very powerful. I also have experienced some of the things that Traci have experienced. I'm in higher ed, and in higher education, I have seen it more than when I was in the private sector. Sometimes you show up to meetings and my name is confusing. They're not expecting me to come in, they're expecting a different person because of my last name. So it's shocking. And then when I come in and they're like, oh, who are you? Even I've been working in an institute for years, nobody thinks that who I am or and then they wonders about how smart I sound or the knowledge that I have. I've been excluded from meetings oftentimes, and I see it as it's a racial thing. They don't know the education that I have to talk about the education that I have. Nobody's taking the time. And even in my own family, I'm in a biracial relationship. And my husband's side of the family sometimes don't make comment as to, oh, you're different. What does that mean? I'm different. It's almost as if I am the exception. I guess that's the way I'm doing it. I never put into perspective to face to share that, but yeah, it is, and I don't know how we're going to teach other people and how long it's going to take to learn, but they don't really understand or see it. I mean, there was one time that I went to pick up my daughter from church, okay, and the teacher held her back, and my daughter was like 4, and she held her back. She said, no, wait for your mom to come. My daughter is very fair, so they didn't think that I was her mom, and she actually held her back to wait for her mom. They didn't realize that I was her mom because I didn't look for it. So it's a very powerful conversation. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. We appreciate that. Well, thank you all for sharing. That was very enlightening to hear how you felt as well. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Ellen. Let's see if.
Sure, thank you, Sarah.
No problem.
I'd like to ask another question at this point. Why is it difficult to acknowledge race? And how does the idea of colorblindness provide comfort or cover? And to whom does it provide that comfort? And yeah, Billy just put in the chat that if you wanted to comment on the other question, please feel free to continue that discussion or begin with a new question.
Hey, Ellen. Hello, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Hello,
Jeff.
yes,
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Bailey. To answer that question, it's always been my perception and my reality that white males are very uncomfortable with admitting the truth and having the conversation. And my conclusion is that they don't know how to have it. So I try to engage them in conversation, but it's a deep dive.
I'm sorry, Jeff, I didn't hear the last few words you said. You try to engage in that conversation and...
It's a deep dive because they know what they don't know. And
okay.
I'm viewed as the exceptional Negro, as my sister Tracy put it. But I can deal with that. But I think that my opinion is that they have a very difficult time talking about it.
We do.
Sure.
You're not wrong. And that's one of the reasons that I'm here and want to bring the conversation to more white men, because from my perspective, while white women may have a role in this as well, I'm a white man and I can internalize this to say that, you know, I'm part of the problem and white men are part of the problem. As hard as it is to have these conversations, it is a deep dive. I struggle to find the courage many times to have the conversation with other white men who express racist attitudes, who say that they don't see color. I'm sure that in my lifetime, I've done everything that white men are being accused of. Well, maybe not everything, but a lot of it. And I've learned, I've educated myself, I've grown, and soon, now, and soon I hope to continue conversations with white men to fix the problem that we've created. It's really hard though, because so many either won't engage because they put up their own defenses and say, oh, I'm not racist, I'm not the problem. Well, yes, we all are. Me too. We can't escape it. It's really hard though, because there are too many white men who will not engage, who cannot, as the man before me said, who can't they don't know the way. And so I'm struggling to find the way to engage them in those deeper conversations over longer periods of time, because it is not one conversation. I try and do this in my nonprofit community in Illinois. I try to do this at work. I do this with my kids, with my family. But like the gentleman before me said, we don't know how, we don't know the way. And that's why it's hard for those white men who do not at all want to engage. And it's hard for those of us who are engaging to find the right path, to find our way in this space, because all the roadmaps before us were wrong and broken. And the right one that we're trying to bring now, there isn't a roadmap for us, or at least I'm still struggling to learn it myself. It's being a kind human being. I mean, that's an easy roadmap, but it's a struggle. It's a hard road. And I know that the road that I'm on is nothing compared to how hard the road is for all minorities, including women of any color, including queer, transgender. Thank you for having these conversations. It helps me.
Well, Smith.
Hello. Hi. My name is Beverly, and I'm an African American woman. So, thank you for the conversations that we had so far. So the issue that I have is this whole concept of I don't see color. So, as an African American woman, an African American person, to me, I take that almost as a slap in the face because God created me with color and he created a lot of us with color. And so that's who we are. We're human beings who have pigmentation to our skin. So when you say you don't see color, or when people say they don't see color, then you don't see. In my perspective, there's something wrong or something not off-putting that is a part of who I am that you refuse not to acknowledge. And so that's a problem for someone like me because I'm beautifully created in the image and likeness of my creator, whoever I may be, as a person of color or whoever God created who I am and how I move in the world. So when someone say that they don't see color, then they don't see my individuality and they don't see my uniqueness as a creation of the creator who created me. And so the question becomes, what is wrong with that? What is wrong? Why is it a problem that certain people are not able to acknowledge the color that I am, the color that God created me to be? That is the problem. Why is it a problem that some folks in this world and in this country cannot acknowledge the person, the whole person that we are as people? Why is that a problem? Is that a threat or what? What is underneath that? What is driving that? And what is driving the racism that continues to perpetrate and cycle out into this country that people are not willing to see and embrace the whole individual that God has created? That is the issue that I struggle with, because I was created by God and all of us was, so we should all embrace each other, but we don't. So there lies the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. There are some other hands up, and I understand that Jessica, you can't do the hand, so go ahead and Jessica, if you want to speak at this point.
Thank you. So I am not able to turn on my video, or if I do, it will start jumbling up my sound. So I am a white woman. I want to just identify myself in that way since you can't see me. And I just want to say thank you to Beverly, who just shared her experience. That was very powerful for me. And I want to add my perspective of this issue about color blindness. And one thing that I've witnessed as a white woman, even in trying to be a better ally and help call out these sorts of issues as I see them with my fellow white employees, is that most often it comes from a place of, good intention or misguided good intention, but also a place of discomfort on the white individual's part, where, this is something that they feel like is taboo, and they feel like they know they're not supposed to do anything wrong, but they haven't had the experience of being able to feel comfortable talking about race. And first, I want to acknowledge that one of the reasons that I feel more comfortable than some of my colleagues is I was very fortunate to work with an amazing, intelligent Black woman who was so generous in spending her emotional labor helping me along. And she was so proud of her heritage and her culture. And it was a gift to be able to witness that and hear her speak unapologetically about her experiences, because it helped me become more comfortable with these ideas. And so I want to say thank you to all of the people of color who are willing to spend that emotional labor, because I think it helps us white folks along, and it's not your job to do that. But another way that in my mind we can help make this more comfortable conversation and guide it away from color blindness and into color consciousness is calling, continuing to call things as we see them in a way that's calm, as us white folks, in a way that's calm and non-judgmental and pushes through the initial offensiveness. Because once you get past that, I think that's where real growth happens. But if you back down from your colleagues, if they feel immediately uncomfortable or defensive when you call them out on something, then they're not learning and they're not growing. So, I had a situation where a white manager interviewed a Black man and was describing the Black candidate to me, and was just amazed, thrilled with this candidate, but he used the word articulate and well-mannered. And I immediately stopped him and said, I appreciate that you're trying to express that you think this candidate is a great candidate, but those are loaded words, and we need to make sure that we're doing better when we're describing, especially candidates of color, because those words can be, can have a negative connotation. And he at first was, no, I didn't mean it that way. And I said, no, I totally get it. And I've been guilty of it myself. So let's think about words that we can maybe use instead. And we did. And then he kept going. And it was fine. We pushed past that. And now he's, hopefully will be more mindful in the future. So anyways, I think I just wanted to thank, my main point is just thanking the folks of color who are so generously sharing their experiences with us and helping us learn and become more comfortable in our experiences so we can be better allies.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jessica. There are 3 more people who have their hands up, and I'm aware that we have only 8 minutes. We will be ending at 10. So
I got to jump in before I blow up.
Bob, hold on just a second.
I'm trying.
There's 8 minutes and 3 people who want to speak. This is a very rich conversation. I hate to have to end it at 10, but if the 3 of you can limit your time to 2 minutes. So go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, that video that Traci showed us messed me up. I found myself incredibly angry and profoundly sad at the same time. And it's just, and I go back into my own experience back in my hippie days, in my late teens with long hair, and I was refused jobs. Well, damn it, I could cut my hair. I can't change the color of my skin. And that, it just wasn't right. Several years later, I was in court seeking custody of my children, my 2 boys in divorce. And I was denied custody because I'm a man. The judge said, I'm going to invoke the tender years doctrine. Young children should be with their mother. And I'll be honest with you, one of them is dead now because of it. So I feel very strongly about this. And Traci, thank you. I to a degree, I feel like I don't have license because I can cut my hair. That's all I've got to say about that.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I know this is bringing up heavy feelings for a lot of us here on this call, so thank you all for staying with it. And I see Arissa also has her hand up.
Thank you.
Arissa, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. For me, it's brought up a lot of like memories of different conversations I've had with people, and speaking with like Jeffrey Bailey's comment about white men struggling with this. And I've also seen it a lot too with Jewish colleagues. And you know, I myself am also Jewish, but I've seen, even with my own husband, like this struggle of like color blindness, and also like the concept of white privilege has been very hard for some people that I know. And like I said, even my own husband grew up very poor. And I see that a lot with other poor people who grew up very poor, where they say, you know, like, I never had any privilege in my life. And so, you know, white privilege doesn't exist. And it's like, I don't know how many times I have honestly like gone over what white privilege actually means with him, where he just doesn't hear it. He just hears privilege, and he's like, I didn't have privilege, and so you can't tell me that white privilege exists. And I'm like, they're two separate things. Like you can have been poor and still have white privilege, but he just like he has this like block in hearing this conversation. And I've also seen it a lot with like Jewish colleagues, in terms of like, you know, when we have conversations about like injustices of like Black or Indigenous folks, that, you know, they say, well, what about the Jews? And it's like, what about the Jews? Like, I'm Jewish. That doesn't take away from what's happened to other people. And I really struggle with like how to have those conversations, like one in my own personal life at home, and then two at work, like how I can help people to like understand like these deeper things. Like sometimes I feel like no matter how hard I try to help them understand these concepts, they just are closed to listening. And it's very frustrating for me. And if it's frustrating for me, I cannot even imagine the weight that is on my friends and colleagues who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who's brought difficult thoughts and feelings into this space. We do only have a few more minutes. Tara, do you want to add anything before we close?
I just want to say thank you to everybody for sharing their feelings and being so transparent, and being willing to have the conversation, you know, to partake in the conversation with us.
Yes, and a reminder that we are, with this group, wanting to create a community of practice, which means we will learn from each other how to have these conversations. We'll get a little bit more into that at another time. Our next discussion will be on white supremacy, and we will be sending out an article to read ahead of time. If you have questions, comments, please feel free to email Tracy, or to email Billy, Tara, or me as we go along here. And I'm hoping that we all get to know each other better, so that at least amongst ourselves, these conversations will become a little easier, maybe not less uncomfortable, but at least we are putting ourselves into the discussion. I thank you all, and anyone else. Billy, you want to put anything into this to close us out here?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Ellen and Tara, for leading that conversation, and Tracy for providing your wisdom as well. And thank you so much to the group for being vulnerable and practicing these difficult conversations. These sessions are really intended to be a mechanism for us to model these conversations with one another to help us think through the issues that we might encounter when we're leading them ourselves in our own day-to-day lives. So we're going to work together to find a way to continue that dialogue. We, of course, will see you next month on May the 21st. We'll continue to debrief, and I will also be sharing the recording for today's session and the link for the evaluation. I'm sorry that it didn't work for some of you. I'll investigate that. It may be a browser issue, but know that you'll hear from me within the next few days. Please do send any additional feedback in that survey. You can also feel free, of course, to always email Traci, Ellen, Tratera, or I if you have questions or things that you want to share, and we will reach out to you soon. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you all for participating. I appreciate that.
Thank you
Happy
so
birthday,
much.
Traci.
Thank you, everybody.